going to ask you to go on an imaginary little adventure, if you would, with me. I want you to imagine, if you would, that an alien from another universal world had been visiting this planet, and we'll call that alien Herm. So Herm spent some time here and has since returned back to its home and is standing before the council. And the council has asked Herm, what did you witness? In particular, tell me about this Thanksgiving holiday that these earthlings celebrate. Oh my God, well, I don't know if Herm would say, oh my God, or not. So, come to think of it, it says Thanksgiving Day. He says, I don't know why they call it that. He says, Herm, because it's all about the next day, Black Friday. Well, there's so much press about it. Herm goes on, and it's like that's what people plan for is Black Friday. Even this spiritual organization that goes by the name of Unity sent out this email blast that said, starts today, uplift your spirit sale. That's the truth. However, to their credit, Herm goes on, they did talk at length about giving thanks and family and traditions of this thing they call a holiday. And I gotta tell you, this one guy in particular was laser focused on gratitude. Yeah, somewhere in this place called Woodstock, Illinois. For like 20 minutes, he just railed on gratitude, and traditions, and families. I'm not sure what that's about. Because the day is really about Black Friday. Yeah, that's where the energy is, he says. Half off today. It's understandable that Herm or anyone else witnessing our culture from the kind of the 30,000 foot view might think that Black Friday was the real cause for celebration. You know, you won't hear much of it in the media, but I believe Thanksgiving is about people. And for many, it's about families or gatherings and some kind of food, probably lots of it. Let's not forget leftovers. It's about playing games and seeing big kids that used to be little kids. And older folks that are even older now, too. Thanksgiving Day is a valuable time in our culture. I must add, however, that Thanksgiving Day can be a time of loneliness and isolation for some too, can't it? And it's all hidden from the overall view, isn't it? And while some of us may take advantage of Black Friday sales, I'm not saying it's wrong. I said some real memories about this time or about Thanksgiving and past Thanksgiving gatherings. You know, these are times when an old recipe is repeated again and again, and maybe even an old roasting pan is pulled out. Don't get used all that often. Memories and stories about past Thanksgivings abound. And yet those who in some ways seem to be in charge of what's going on would lead you to believe that it's really about half-off sales and Black Friday. I see a parallel here with Christianity. On this Advent Sunday, depending on your spiritual or religious beliefs, we prepare to celebrate the birth of Jesus the Christ, the only Son of God, or be reminded of the rebirth of the Christ within. Christianity, in my view, focuses on the virgin birth. The three wise men, although nowhere in the Bible does it say there were three of them. No room at the inn, the stable, the manger. All beautiful stories, don't get me wrong. Metaphysical representations of this unique individual. Christian religion focuses on the idea that the only Son of God was born on this Christmas day. Although that version of how God got into Jesus is only stated in the Gospels of Luke and Matthew, John and Mark don't mention at all. And when you think about it, isn't Christmas Day really a celebration of the birth of Christianity? It took a while. Nevertheless, that's where it started. And what we note here in Unity on the spiritual path is that there is a world of difference between Jesus' teachings and teachings about Jesus. In my view, if Jesus came back today and looked at Christianity, which was initially called the Way, I think he'd say, oh, brother, you guys kind of got it wrong here. Not in every way, but you got a lot here that doesn't resonate. In some traditional Christian communities, women are not treated as equals. They cannot serve in ministerial roles. Oh yeah, they can be super deacons or something like that. Ministers or priests, no way. No way. And children are taught early on that they were born in sin, not as a beautiful, pure expression of God. And they're taught that Jesus died because of them. I think guilt is a tool used to control people, in my view. And sometimes that happens in Christianity. And sometimes it happens within me too. Seems to be part of my human nature too. And you know, when I think of it, many traditional Christian churches are built like cathedrals. Man, they're beautiful. Especially in Europe. Oh my God. Just huge, and just to walk in, there's like this presence and feeling. Even though I've never been to Europe, I can imagine what it's like. And then the pipe organ starts belting out music, and Christmas carols on the pipe organ, and it's this huge cathedral. Oh my God, it's going to overwhelm you. It's going to matter. It's going to make an impression all the way down to your soul. Then you have your ministers or priests or cardinals or bishops that come out dressed in some form of garb that just is impressive and gets your attention and think, wow, whew, this is really something. It must be true. In my view, traditional Christianity gives the impression that what's important is visual impression and worshiping Jesus as Savior who died for our sins. None of this was common to Jesus' ministries or his teachings. Just as Thanksgiving isn't about Black Friday, although Black Friday gets all the press, Jesus' teachings aren't about what Christianity too often focuses on, but that's what gets all the press, especially around this time of year. There's a Prime Video program on called Jesus the Game Changer. I recommend it, although you need to listen to it with understanding that it has a perspective it tries to show, but I like it. And they were talking about the parable of the lost sheep. This is where we need to know that back in that day, the flocks of sheep that a shepherd would have would be relatively small, less than 100 for sure, probably a lot less. And the shepherd didn't go behind them, moving them on. They followed the shepherd, so he led the sheep. Shepherd led the sheep. And the parable has it that Suddenly the shepherd realizes, whoa, one of them have gone missing. One of them has gone missing. One sheep out of all these others has gone missing. And the shepherd immediately leaves the herd, the flock of sheep, to go find the lost sheep. Now, that makes no sense. And most Jesus' parables don't. Because they aren't truthful, they aren't fact, but they are loaded with truth. And when this shepherd finally finds the lost sheep, he's ecstatic. He found the sheep and he just hugs it and he carries it back to the flock to rejoin the flock. It makes no sense for a shepherd to abandon the flock for one sheep. That's what he did. And this is Jesus' way of saying everyone matters. Everyone matters. It's his way of demonstrating equality and inclusion. That's what Jesus taught. If you wish to wrap up Jesus' method in one pithy statement, it would be equality and inclusion. Jesus included women in his ministry. In the Greco-Roman culture, unless you're talking about the very affluent member of the society, which is just, this much of it, women served as men's sexual servants or childbearers. Roman girls were typically married at the age of 12, 13, or 14 to men 30 years of age or so. And they had no say in it at all. A man could divorce his wife simply by filling out a form, and it was over. And the woman was left with no education, no training, nothing. Abortions were crippling or led to death, as there existed no knowledge about bacteria or germs or surgical processes needing to be sterile. No antiseptics. Well, then why have an abortion? Because the husband wanted it. That's why. And if that's how the conquerors treated their women, how do you think they treated the women of the conquered? Think about that. Yet Jesus was openly present with women, treated them respectfully, included them in his ministry as people of authority. And believe me, he was judged for it and talked about. He treated everyone as equals. Everyone was included. Remember, he healed the Gentiles, he healed slaves, he healed a Roman centurion's son, he healed women, he touched people who were unclean. You see, the Old Testament Bible says we are created in the image and likeness of God, right? It does not mean physically. Okay. We got that idea from 16th century Italian painters. It's an old white guy with long hair putting his little finger out towards some miserable soul. It meant spiritually. We are all children of God, by whatever name you call God. The universal creative force, the intelligent, formless energy all around us. We are all children of that energy. Equal, no one's special and everyone's special. I've referred to this time of Advent as a spiritual Advent for this ministry. That means we'll approach this time from the perspective of Jesus of Nazareth. Now, you don't have to worry, the Christmas carols will take care of the Christ is King part, and I'm loving it. I just love Christmas carols. Some of the messages are really counter to what we teach. So what? They're beautiful, and we get to cherry pick. Don't wait. But we're going to look at what he taught, and we're going to put it into practice. Because we follow his teachings, we worship his teachings, not so much the man. In unity, we see Jesus as our master teacher, our elder brother. Yeah. Not the great exception, but the great example of what we can be when we understand what's inside of us, what really birthed us. And he created an example that, at least for me, it's kind of hard to follow sometimes. That's why we accept our humanity at the same time and the things we do. So coming from that presence, this ministry will do our best to minister in our culture that don't receive the attention they deserve. Remember, Jesus said, even the least of these. Well, they're not least because they don't deserve attention. They're least because that's how our culture tends to see people sometimes. Any minority would fit that in our culture. Well, that's who Jesus ministered to. And we'll lift ourselves as we do so. So right outside this door, if you take a left, kind of as though you're going to go out the other door, you're going to see some volunteer sign-up sheets. Because we're going to be serving some people that don't get as much attention as they might. We'll be packing Project Invisibility gifts on the 14th. NISRA outreach opportunity on the evening of the 17th. NAMI gift bag packing on the 22nd after the service, and we're going to entice you to stay with a potluck. And Christmas caroling at Pads on the 24th. A couple of these things, the packing project and the NAMI gift bag packing, are sit while serving activities. So if you're not real mobile, it's hard to get around, perfect for you. And anybody who can also. And so in closing, Thanksgiving isn't about half-off sales, as our choir comes up to regale us again. Advent isn't a time to forget about serving others. It's about serving others. Others who are also made in the image and likeness of God. Everyone is important. Everyone matters. And lastly, let's hold on to those ideas during this time of Advent and, of course, beyond. Take it away.